Okay. My movie is 10 Things I Hate About You. Basically, as a brief explanation, is like a romantic comedy film in 1999. It was directed by Gil Junger, and it brings like, uh, it centers basically in Kat Strafford, which is the main character. She is a rebellious high school student, and she has a sister. Her sister, she's like a conservative girl. She wants to date. She cannot date because their dad doesn't let her until her sister Kat does. So to solve this problem, there were some classmates. One of them, Joey. Joey, he wants to date Bianca, Kat's sister. So he pays Patrick in order to like date her sister. Okay, basically the first thing that I'm gonna do is like the Homo Sacer. The Homo Sacer, I'm not gonna explain a lot. I'm just gonna explain how these align to the movie. So basically, like the author discusses the idea of a person who is basically like banned or excluded from a community because they don't fit into the laws. Things I hate about you. We see characters. I'm gonna choose the main character, which is Kat Strafford. She's like an outsider in the school. She does think that they're not okay within society for a girl. She plays soccer. She doesn't date. I think I can like relate to her in the Zoe. She might be a Zoe for others, but she is a bias for herself. It's a little bit complicated. I'm gonna explain it. So basically, others, they see her as a like outsider. She's like, oh, she's a feminist. Like sometimes they make like comments, you're a girl, you're not supposed to do this, or things that she's not okay with. And usually she speaks out, and that's another theory I'm gonna talk about. But she's not fully accepted into the community of a usual high school experience. Okay, she is like, she doesn't fit in the social norms, and that's why we can see her like from outside a group. So she's not part of the normal group, she's outside. But for herself, she's someone with meanings. She's a bias. She wants to go to college. She believes in things. She likes politics. She's someone that some people like, they kind of like don't see it because in the normal world she's not okay for them. Like in the high school world, they're like immature for her. So in the high school for others, she's a Zoe, but for herself, she wants to be an outsider because she doesn't want to fit into Zoe. So I think she might be a bias for her in her perspective, but for others and for the community, she's like a Zoe. Second one is the power dynamics and control. Like the second theory I'm gonna use is in the state of exception. Basically, a state of exception is like the power that has the ability to suspend laws and control who has basically like the rights. It's more of like an authority thing, like sovereignty thing and power. But that's the thing. I used that power that was reflected in the state of exception book, and I'm gonna driven into some characters and some development of the relationships between the characters. So here we have Patrick, which is like the main second character, is the one that he has to like date Kat for money. But that's the thing, he's hired to manipulate Kat's feelings. I think the act of control here kind of reflects a manipulation of the social systems, like similar to the way that sovereign powers manipulate their civilians to do things that they want and control their citizens in a state of exception. Joey, he represents like the power. Like I believe he's like the power because he has the money. He represents like wealth and money and manipulation and social status, right? Where he believes that his financial power or his sovereign power in the state of exception book allows him to manipulate others and act outside ethical norms. So basically, declares a state of exception when he pays off Patrick, because he wants to date Bianca. He wants to date Kat's sister. So like it is okay to hurt her feelings because I want to do something. And for my third theory, it's like the autonomy in the Homo Sacer. Basically, the Homo Sacer is, is excluded from the legal system and of course by the normal social interactions. So they don't have ability to influence. They have a bare life without meaning, and they lose the ability to act freely in the political system, so they don't have autonomy. Although Homo sacer's lack of autonomy is the central concept in the author's work, in the book, because it's where is the individual is like reduced to a figure who cannot be free. And in contrast, here's the thing: Kat, which is the main character, she gains she as we know her at the beginning, she has autonomy. But this autonomy kind of like progress in the film. She starts as we know her as a rebellion. She's an isolated figure, but at the end, she does what she wants. Like she do her own desires and make her own choices. In this case, like she falls in love with Patrick. Basically, Kat's autonomy kind of represents like her process or of her personal like growth. She chooses to be outside like the norm. Like she chooses to be an outsider, and that like she kind of like knows, and she kind of figures out that it limits her it limits her ability to engage with others and have like a sense of power towards the community. So like she accepts to date Patrick. She goes to parties. She actually goes to the prom. She's kind of more open socially, and she starts to be more free of herself. And she like, I think at the end she kind of embraces who she is. Like at the beginning we would never see her, like we would never as the audience think that she was crying, but she is crying. And that's like the theory that I want to portray, is like how the lack of autonomy in the Homo sacer, it's something that Kat has. Like she has autonomy, but her autonomy like it kind of like evolves into who she really is. Like she's not a cold person or a rebel. Like she's embracing her true personality. But also it can refer to the state of exception when after this state of exception happens in a case of emergency, when Kat basically understood and found out that she was being like, it was a setup, this like romance, and she like understood and embraced her feelings, her actual like feelings, and embraced her personality. It's not like she went back to who she was. She stood who like she stayed as like the rebel girl, like, but she's more social. She's in love. She shows that she's in love. And I can use this also in the theory, in the state of exception. When this state of exception ends, not everything comes back as the same way. There are things that things that maintain from the state of exception into today's world, um in order to like, in this case, her to be happy, her to like understand who she really is.